Hey guys, it's Luke Yon, and today I am going to be doing my July wrap-up. I'm going to be discussing all 15 books, I think, that I read in the month of July. And yeah, let's just get into it. I feel like I haven't done this short of an intro in forever. The first book that I read in the month of July was Book Lovers by Emily Henry. This is an adult romance book that follows a main character named Nora, who is very type A. She is kind of like known as the shark, and she is a literary agent. She's willing to do anything for her clients. She is like known for being very like ruthless, and she reminds me of Sandra Bullock's character in The Proposal. So if you've seen that movie, you can probably guess what Nora's like. And basically one day she ends up going to North Carolina for like a small summer vacation with her sister Libby, who I believe is expecting. She's like a mother, and she just kind of wants to get away from home, but I think she's also pregnant in this book. I honestly can't remember 100%, but I'm pretty sure she's pregnant. And basically she and Libby, her sister, end up going to North Carolina just to kind of get away from the hustle and bustle of the city and their own lives. And when they're there, Nora runs into Charlie, who is another literary agent that she has kind of a little bit of a past with. It's kind of like enemies to lovers. And she basically learns to kind of go with the flow a little bit. She is dealing with like a new client, well, not like a new client, but her client's like new book, which is kind of a little bit dramatic. You'll understand it when you read the book, but I really enjoyed this book. I ended up giving it a 4 something out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed this. I have not been the biggest fan of Emily Henry's past 2 books. I've read both of them, like past 2 romance books, Beach Read and People We Meet on Vacation. I enjoyed Beach Read, but I felt pretty mad about People We Meet on Vacation, so I didn't really know what to expect in Book Lovers. But I loved this book. I loved the 2 main characters. Nora, just her voice came through on the page. She felt like such a real person. Also, she definitely reminded me of Sandra Bullock's character from The Proposal, and I love that movie, so it was like an added plus. And Charlie was so sweet, and I loved their romance, and it was just really heartfelt and cute, and I loved the way that this book kind of subverted a lot of romance tropes, and the third act sort of drama thing, the way that that was done in this book, like, still kind of sticks out to me because it was really interesting. And yeah, I just really enjoyed this book. I loved the North Carolina setting, the like small beach town, well, not beach town, but the small town feel, and it was just really cute. So I definitely recommend this book, and I'm super excited for Emily Henry's new book, which was just announced. The next book that I read was Party of Two by Jasmine Guillory. This was another romance book, and I have read a few Jasmine Guillory books before. I read The Proposal, I've read The Wedding Date, and I've read While We Were Dating. I didn't really love The Proposal, but I liked The Wedding Date, and I really liked While We Were Dating. And I was really excited for this one, and honestly, I barely remember anything about the story, so basically I'm just going to read the thing at the top. It says, a chance meeting with a handsome stranger turns into a whirlwind affair that gets everyone talking. Basically, it's this girl named Olivia who's moved to LA to start her own law firm, and she runs into Max, who is like a politician, and it's like deals with like a mixed race relationship and kind of how she's now in the spotlight because he's a politician and it's like he has a girlfriend. That's all this stuff. And I was looking forward to this book, and it was fine. I ended up giving it 3 stars, but again, really just not memorable. I honestly forgot that I read this book when I was putting together all of the stuff, all of the books for this month. It wasn't bad per se, but it was just very forgettable, and I think I liked it more than The Proposal, but I think this is probably my second least favorite Jasmine Guillory book. It just kind of was like very boring, and I think the third person perspective really grated on me in this book. I didn't mind it so much in The Wedding Date or While We Were Dating, but this one, it kind of just was like really annoying to read, and I felt no connection with the characters. It sounds like I'm bashing on this book, but I still gave it 3 stars. It was fine. I just really don't have anything to say about it. Then I reread The Tea Dragon Society by Kay O'Neill. I actually reread this and the other 2 books in the series. I reread these every year. It's basically just a graphic novel series that follows these people who raise dragons that grow leaves from their horns, and you can brew them to make tea. It's like this whole thing. It's like one of the cutest series, and I always read it in July, and it always like lifts me up. So yeah, I rated all of them 4 stars. So The Tea Dragon Society, The Tea Dragon Festival, which is kind of a prequel to this book, and then The Tea Dragon Tapestry, which is a sequel of like both books. They're really solid. If you haven't read them, I definitely recommend them. They're just like really heartwarming and sweet, and the artwork is amazing. So here's just like a little example. It's really cute and really well done. Then I read The Song That Moves the Sun by Anna Bright. This is a YA fantasy standalone, and it follows two main characters. What are their names again? I honestly forgot. This is not good. Rora and Claudia. Okay, I knew one was Rora, but then I thought the other one was Cora, and I was confused. But yeah, Rora and Claudia, they're best friends. They live in Washington, D.C., and they basically end up going to this club, and then they end up going to this, like, space sort of place. I'm, like, describing this book horribly, but basically it says, the stars chart our births, we chart our fates. It's basically, like, deals with astrological signs, and each planet kind of has a different sign, and it's this whole, like, fantasy adventure whirlwind thing. Honestly, I liked this book a lot more when I was, like, reading it and, like, after I had finished it, but I just really, again, kind of with Party of Two, this was just not very memorable. I think, when I think back on it, I just don't really have many feelings. So I think 3 stars is, like, a very good rating. It was just very okay. Like, the writing was good, the characters were, like, fine, but the world was really the part that, like, kept me engaged throughout the story. The world was really cool, and how it dealt with all the, like, zodiac stuff and astrological business, and I thought that was interesting, and I liked the kind of space stuff. But apart from that, it was just kind of okay. So, yeah. Then I went back to romance books. I read Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. This is her most recent romance book. This book is kind of like two people coming from completely opposite worlds, like, coming together. It follows two main characters, Daniel and Alexis. Daniel runs, like, an inn in the middle of nowhere. I actually don't remember where. I don't think it actually ever says. I have no idea, but it's somewhere in, like, the Midwest, I think. And Alexis is an ER doctor in, you know, the big city. And they're, like, from completely opposite worlds, and then they come together, and it's, like, it's a romance book. You get the gist. So, I really enjoyed this book. I ended up giving it... What did I give this book? Okay, I gave it like a 3.75. Honestly, I feel like it's close to a 4. I really enjoyed this book. It was very easy to read. I read it while I was on vacation, and I could kind of just breeze through the book. I didn't really have to, like, think about anything. I could kind of just sit and just, like, breeze through the book. It was really nice, and I liked the two main characters. They were both really, really sweet. I liked Alexis, and I liked how, you know, she was so focused on her career, and I really liked that, because a lot of times in romance book, it's just focused on the relationship, but in this book, she was really focused on her career, you know, focused on family and friends and all that sort of stuff, and Daniel was really, like, determined to kind of keep this inn together and all of that sort of stuff, and he also is dealing with his own stuff in his personal life, so I liked that. I liked the different facets of their personalities, and I liked how they kind of came together. And I liked how this book also dealt with a lot of, like, serious issues. I don't want to get into it because it might be a little bit spoilery, but I like that Abby Jimenez's books always have, like, a little bit of a deeper undertone and an undercurrent. So I really liked that aspect of the book, and it was just a really solid romance book overall. If you're looking for a sweet, charming romance book that you can kind of just breeze through, I feel like I've said breeze through, like, a million times, but it's really easy to read. It's fun. The romance is cute. It's a little bit long, but I still think that it's a really great book, and I think it's probably my second favorite of her 4 books that I've read, and I'm really excited for her next book, which is, like, a companion, and it follows, I think, Alexis's sister or friend. I can't remember exactly, but I did really like this book, and again, it's a great vacation read. Next, I read one of my new favorite books of the year, and that was 6 Crimson Cranes by Elizabeth Lim. This is the first book in a YA fantasy duology, and this book follows a girl named Shiori, who's the princess to this kingdom. This book is kind of inspired by East Asian mythology. It's a loose retelling of the Wild Swans, and also a bunch of other sort of mythological stories, but Shiori's the princess in this kingdom, and she has magic, which is kind of like a no-no, and she ends up accidentally showing her stepmother, Raikama, that she has this magic, and her stepmother is like, girl, you can't be doing this, and she basically ends up banishing Shiori and turning Shiori's brother into cranes, 6 crimson cranes to be exact, and Shiori kind of goes on this adventure to find her brothers, and then kind of, like, free them of this curse and take down her stepmother and all of this stuff. There's a dragon that she meets in the first chapter, and that's kind of another side plot. I just loved this book. I love any books that have, like, I love all retellings, and I love mythology, and this book was full of that. I loved getting to see all of the sort of East Asian influences that Elizabeth Lim incorporated into the story. There's this part of this book where she already has this wooden bowl that's like stuck on her head, so people can't like identify her, and she like can't really see, I think. And that was really interesting. That's like a piece of, I don't know which folklore, but it's part of a folklore of some culture. And I really enjoyed that. I just loved the kind of fusion of all these different mythologies. It like took a Western story and it was like a melange of East and West, and I really enjoyed that. And yeah, it was just really magical. I loved kind of just reading the story and just getting taken on this ride. I felt like I was kind of just like floating through the story. It was really relaxing to read, and it was like a very easy fantasy. So if you're not like a big fantasy fan and you want to start getting into it, this is great. There's a lot of intricate world building, and the world in this book is very complex and intricate, but it's never convoluted or confusing, and the characters are phenomenal. It's one perspective, so you're never really lost, and it's just really cool, really magical, really whimsical, and I cannot wait for the sequel, which comes out later this month. So yeah, I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars, definitely on my favorite books of the year list. Next, I read This Poison Heart by Kalynn Bayron. This is another first book in YA fantasy duology, and this book follows a girl named Briseis, who lives with her 2 adoptive moms, and one day she ends up finding out that her biological aunt has died and has left her this estate in the middle of upstate New York. So Briseis and her mothers end up traveling to Rhinebeck, which was part of the reason why I was interested in this book, because I love Rhinebeck. I've been there so many times and I loved reading about it. Basically they end up going there and find out that this town is a little bit magical. Their house is a little bit off as well. And it kind of goes into that, and Briseis also has this like nature magic, which was really cool. So yeah, I ended up giving this book 3.5 to 5 stars. I didn't love it as much as I was hoping to, but I definitely got what I wanted out of the story. It was a cool, magical story. It's good for like fall, like kind of the part where summer is turning into fall, because it's like Rhinebeck and it's really nice, and there's like this kind of darker magic. There's a little bit of Greek mythology in the book. The characters are really interesting. It's just a really, really good book, and I think while it's not perfect, I definitely enjoyed like the magic system and the mystery that was sort of unraveling throughout the book. I don't know if I'm going to read the sequel because I feel kind of satisfied where this book ended, but I still think it was really solid. I really enjoyed the characters, and the writing wasn't like my favorite, but it did its job. And yeah, the setting was really cool. I would definitely recommend this if you're looking for kind of a quick fantasy to get through. Next, I reread one of my absolute favorite books of all time, and that was the On Honeymooners by Christina Lauren. I absolutely love this book. It's one of my favorite books of all time, as I said, and I read it like once or twice every single summer. That's how much I love it. But this book, I always struggle explaining it because it's a little bit confusing, but it follows a main character named Olive, who is the twin sister to Amy, and Amy is like the luckiest girl in the world. She didn't have to pay a single cent for her wedding. She won everything through sweepstakes and raffles. She got her honeymoon paid for as well. And our main character, Olive, is the complete opposite. She's very unlucky. She like can't catch a break, basically. And she absolutely hates her sister Amy's husband-to-be brother, Ethan. So Amy is marrying Dane, and Dane's brother is Ethan. Olive and Ethan hate each other. They have had a rivalry for years. And basically, they are the only two who don't eat the seafood buffet at the wedding, and everyone except for the two of them get violently ill, and so Amy and Dane end up asking Olive and Ethan to go on their honeymoon for them because it's like all expenses paid and non-refundable. So Olive and Ethan end up going to Maui, and they have to pretend to be a newlywed couple and pretend to be on their honeymoon, and there's all these shenanigans. It's great. I love this book so much. If you need a summer book, this is what you should pick up. Like, this is what you need to read. I do own a copy, but it's upstairs and I didn't feel like getting it. But I love this book. I'm probably going to read it again this month in August because I just love it so much. It's one of my favorite books of all time, as I said like 3 times so far. And yeah, it's just amazing. The characters are amazing. Writing, the setting, it's great. Please read it. Next, I read With You All the Way by Cynthia Han. This is a YA contemporary book, and it follows a girl named Ada who basically decides that she's going to lose her virginity with her boyfriend. She ends up, before they actually do, that she doesn't want to. She wants to wait a little bit, and her boyfriend is really understanding. She's like, this is great. And then the next day, she is going to visit him at his swimming competition, and she finds out that he has cheated on her. And she's like, oh, no, this is not happening. And she breaks up with him, and then shortly thereafter, she and the rest of her family end up going on vacation to Maui, and Ada discovers something about one of her own family members that is very shocking, and she basically is like, you know what, everything sucks, I am just going to make it my mission on this vacation to lose my virginity, and she ends up starting off her adventure to do that, and I don't really want to say too much, this book is very short, but it is one of my new favorite books of the year. I ended up giving this book 5 out of 5 stars. I did not expect to love this book so much, but I loved it. I love Cynthia Hand's writing. I loved the main character, Ada. She is so interesting, and I love her drive and her determination, not just in to lose her virginity, but also just in life. She is a very determined young woman, and I love all the characters in this book, all her family members, even her, you know, trash boyfriend. He was really well written still. Even though he was only in a couple chapters of the book, and then it was just really great. I loved the book. It was so fast-paced, and I could kind of just, like, fly through it. It's not that long. I don't think it's even 300 pages. Actually, no, it's a lie. It's 318. But there were so many twists and turns, and I was, like, not expecting different things, and it was just amazing. So, if you have not read this book, I would definitely recommend it. A lot of people haven't read it, despite the fact that it's been out for quite a while. I mean, not quite a while, but I think it came out... yeah, last March, so it's been like a year and a half since this book came out. And I haven't heard anyone talk about it, and it deserves a bunch more hype, because it's a great contemporary book, and I loved it, so yeah. 5 out of 5 stars. Then I read The Ivies by Alexa Donne. This is a YA mystery thriller book, and I was mainly interested in this book because it has to do with, like, cutthroat college admissions, and that is fascinating to me. I'm going through the college process right now, and I've been fascinated by it for like over a year. I might even end up wanting to become like an admissions officer, a dean of admissions, or a college counselor or something, because it's just so interesting. And this book was calling to me because I thought it was so interesting. I love Alexa Donne's videos about like college and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, if you don't know, she is like an author tuber, and she has a few videos about college, and I knew this book would be very accurate and very cool and fun, and it's like cutthroat and, you know, all that sort of stuff. So I love juicy thrillers, and this was exactly that. This book follows one main character, Olivia, but it follows like her friend group at this very elite boarding school in Massachusetts, and she is a part of this group of 5 girls called the Ivies. The leader of the group, Avery, she basically assigned everyone an Ivy League institution, so she is Harvard. It's been her dream forever, and the main character, Olivia, has been assigned Penn, so the University of Pennsylvania. There's a Brown, a Princeton, and a Yale. So they are this group of girls at this boarding school called Claflin Academy, and they all decided that they would apply to these Ivy League institutions in particular so that they weren't stealing spots from each other. But Avery is not the only one that applies to Harvard, because Olivia ends up applying to Harvard as well because it's always been her dream school. She never really wanted to apply to the University of Pennsylvania, and so she applies to Harvard without anyone knowing, and she ends up getting in. And Avery doesn't get in, and Olivia's like, oh my god, I stole her spot. Not only that, another girl in the group named Emma, who was supposed to apply to Yale, also applied to Harvard and also got in. And when Avery finds out about this, she goes absolutely berserk, and she's like, I'm gonna kill you. And the next day, Emma shows up dead. So it kind of launches this murder investigation. Olivia is kind of at the heart of it. She's like, did Avery kill this girl? She better not find out that I got into Harvard too, because I'm gonna be next. And it's like this whole whirlwind. It was so juicy. I read this book in like 24 hours. And if you need just a frothy, dramatic thriller, pick this up, because it is so freaking good, and I absolutely loved it. So, yeah. This book, I think I gave it like 4 stars. Yeah, I gave it 4 stars. It wasn't like perfect, but it was so addicting to read, and it was so interesting, and all of like the college stuff, it was great. And it was dramatic, and unexpected, and twisty. definitely pick this up if you have not yet. And then the last few books that I read in the month of July were actually rereads. I reread one of my favorite series of all time, and that is the Camelot Rising Trilogy by Kiersten White. I do not own the third book, The Excalibur Curse, so I'll put a picture up here, but I reread the Guinevere Deception, the Camelot Betrayal, and the Excalibur Curse. So I'm going to talk about all the books a little bit individually. So the Guinevere Deception, I'll talk about this first. This book is obviously a Camelot retelling, and it follows Guinevere, and basically in Kiersten White's version of the story of Camelot, Guinevere, our main character, is not actually Guinevere. She was a forced witch who is taking on the role of Guinevere because the original Guinevere was murdered, and so this new Guinevere ends up coming to Camelot to wed King Arthur. Not only that, she is also going to be King Arthur's protector. So this new Guinevere is the daughter of Merlin, and she is a sort of changeling, and she has this magical ability where she can kind of protect the castle from any unwanted danger, obviously. So yeah, it kind of goes into that, and there is sort of throughout the book there are these chapters from like an unnamed person who is watching Guinevere, and let me try to find an example. Probably now that I'm trying to find one I won't, but we'll see. Okay, so they're kind of like that. So it's like someone watching Guinevere, and there's like a darkness in Camelot, there's all these things. I love this book. I have a full spoiler-free reading vlog, which I can link in the description box. But yeah, love this book, 4 out of 5 stars. Same with the Camelot Betrayal, which I also have a reading vlog for. This book obviously picks up where the Guinevere Deception left off, and I think I enjoyed this book even more this time around. That was like the 4th time I read the first book, and this is the 3rd time that I read this book. And I enjoyed it so much more this time around. I think I got a much better appreciation for the story, so yeah, 4 stars as well. And then I also gave 4 stars to the Excalibur Curse, which I originally only gave 3 stars, but I loved this book so much more the second time around. I think now that I had like expectations for what the story was and I knew what the story was, I was able to read this with like a new mindset, and I was able to enjoy it a lot more this round. And yeah, I ended up giving it like a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I really, really loved it. And this obviously picks up where the last book left off, and all the questions are answered about who Guinevere is and all that sort of stuff, and it was a great ending. I really, really loved it. So yeah, that is it for all the books that I read in July. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'd love to know what books you guys read in July. If you read any of the books that I read in July, I would love to know your thoughts. But that's it for this video. I really hope you guys enjoyed. All my social media links are in the description box below, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!